Last Friday night, my family and I were sharing an ordinary Shabbat meal at our local rabbi's house. We laughed, we talked politics, discussed the world, discussed the weekly Torah portion. It was what Shabbat should be about: food, friendship, peace. But just a few kilometers away, Melbourne was experiencing a night of shame that should shake every Australian to the core. First came an attempted arson attack at one of our city's oldest synagogues. 20 Jews were inside, also enjoying a Shabbat meal in peace. But someone had a different idea. An Iranian-born Australian tried to enter the premises, but luckily a quick-thinking 13-year-old refused to open the door, so the attacker threw an accelerant on the door and lit it. Luckily, the damage was limited. But can you imagine the horror if he had succeeded in entering the synagogue? Minutes later, it got worse. Around 20 protesters broke away from a far-left anti-police pro-Palestinian rally in the city, one that happened all too often. They stormed Miznon, a well-known Israeli restaurant. They overturned tables, terrified diners, and shouted, "Death to the IDF." Now, apologists pretend that's just a protest against an institution. It's not. It's a genocidal call, because in Israel, almost every citizen serves in the IDF, so that's a call for mass murder. And that wasn't the end of it. The same night, a business that manufactures parts for the F-35 fighter used by Israel and many other countries was attacked. Cars were torched and damage was done. 3 violent anti-Semitic attacks in just a few hours. Here, in Melbourne, in Australia, a country once proud of its social cohesion and tolerance. I wish I could say our community was shocked that these were isolated acts in an otherwise safe city, but that would be a lie. Australia has a serious problem. For nearly 2 years now, the image of Australia as a welcoming, tolerant country has been shattered. Even as Israel fights a war for survival, its government has had to beg Australia to protect its own Jewish minority. It wasn't always like this. Australia once stood with Israel, from the Light Horse Brigade attack against the Ottoman Empire at Beersheba, to being the first country to vote for partition in 1947. For decades, Australia understood Israel's security needs and stood firmly for peace grounded in reality. Australia was a rare moral light in a sea of darkness. But now, that light has dimmed. Now, many blame our leadership. Its weak response to anti-Semitism after October 7 has given hate room to grow. It has turned sharply critical of Israel, abandoning decades of bipartisan support. It's left many Jews feeling abandoned and isolated. And after these latest attacks, the same tired statements were issued. Another round of anti-hate committees was announced. But let's be honest, none of it will matter without a real will to act. We need leaders who know the difference between the democracy that shares our values and those who want to destroy them. Leaders who understand that chants like "death to the IDF," "globalize the Intifada," or "from the river to the sea" aren't harmless slogans. They are calls for genocide. When people attack Jewish businesses and institutions, yelling "all Zionists are terrorists," we take it personally. Because they're not calling for dialogue, they're calling for death. The flames of hatred are burning here. Australia needs to decide what kind of country it wants to be. One where families can share a Shabbat meal in peace, or one where Jews wait anxiously for the next attack. That's the choice, and it's time to choose.